Gwendolin Niehues is from ARD, the public service broadcaster of Germany.
Yes.
And you have a beautiful title. What is it?
Project Manager Automotive. Yes.
So when you look in terms of listenership figures, people are still listening on FM in their cars, primarily in Germany.
Yes, FM, DAB, hybrid radio, but radio remains really, really the most beloved medium in the car because it's easy, it works.
But there is a but coming in here because new cars have been built with this dashboard that will favor apps.
Well, it will not necessarily favor apps, but apps will be there and they will play a role. And of course, users will have a lot of choice, and we want to make sure that public service content is one of those choices that people can make.
And one of the prominent choices.
And one of the prominent choices, exactly.
So how do you do it? What are some of the ideas that you're having at ARD?
Well, mainly we're thinking about how we can build our apps so they're not just the same app as on the phone, but that they're actually catered towards the user experience you have in the car. So for example, we're developing geolocalized content, so you drive on the Autobahn, you drive past an interesting site, and then the app will suggest titles to you that are related to that site. So you know the brown signs on the highway where you always ask, well, now I know that there's this monastery here, but
you've just passed the home of Stefan Raab.
Exactly, and you're like who is that? So
how to do that?
So that's what we're thinking about. So of course, the automotive use case is a different use case than when you're listening to something on your phone, for example. And that's where radio can actually add a lot because we have the regional content, we have news, we have weather, we have traffic. Like, what more could you want?
You can see, jokes aside, how in a practical sense that would be very useful for regional traffic jams. You wouldn't have to advertise a traffic jam outside of Berlin all over Germany then anymore.
No, exactly.
So do you have to work with the automotive industry makers to...
Yes, of course. Of course, that's really important because then we can get instant feedback on how things actually work in the car. And that's really important for us as well, that we work, of course, equally with the entire industry because we are a public service broadcaster, but for example, with the German manufacturers, it's really good to see that they're also very interested in our content, and it used to be automatically built in because you used to have the radio button, the radio's there, and now we're kind of having to rethink that experience. How can we still have a radio button even though it's maybe a voice interface or a touch interface?
Because in the United States recently, in some cars that I've rented, you struggle for a moment to find the FM button. Everything, you're flicking through the apps, you connect your car up and or your phone and things are playing through your phone.
Yes.
I struggled for a few moments to find where can I get FM here.
Yeah, and that's a pity. I mean, people always talk about radio as if it's this dying medium or whatever, but it's actually such a practical medium to have in the car because sometimes you're just driving for 5 minutes and you don't want to scroll through your favorite music app and select the podcast you're listening to. You just want to be entertained for 5 minutes. And then it's done.
So it'll still be radio in the car, but it may not be the FM button. It would be the ARD app, and it's right there.
For example.
Do you ever consider, or would ARD consider what Netflix have done in certain places, or governments have said to Netflix and streaming services, if I'm not mistaken, you have to carry public service broadcaster content on the platform in the country, so that they would maybe by law in some way have to have the ARD app already pre-installed in the car when it's delivered in that country?
I mean, there is regulation in Germany about public service media and how it needs to be accessible, and that of course applies to the car as well. I mean, we have the luxurious position that we are still in every single car because radio is mandatory in Germany at least, and is asked for by customers, but there is also regulation that of course public service media needs to stay front and center in the car.
Gwen?
Yes.
Danke schön, and enjoy the rest of Radio Days.
Thank you.